do crown?
Yeah?
Yeah? Cool.
Is it another child one, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to see by the way the jeans for you as well.
Cheers.
Look at the building on our left. It used to be the Assize Courts. These days, it is the Crown Court. As we pass by, you can see the bars on the cell windows. Those on trial here are still held in the same cells the offenders were held in over 200 years ago. This is due to the building being a Grade 1 listed property, so it cannot be altered inside or out. On the left, you can see the last remaining section of the castle wall. Look left as we pass the circular drum tower, and you can see where the drawbridge would have been at the base of the wall. Ahead, we can see a square tower marking the end of this section of the city wall. This is Fishergate Postern Tower, which stands where the wall met the River Foss, which would have been much wider than it is today. There were 6 postern towers on the walls of York. Postern means rear entrance, and this is the only such tower still remaining. Over the hedge to our left is the graveyard of St George's Church, which has just one upstanding headstone in it. Those on the bottom deck may see this headstone through the gates on the left as we turn. This is the grave of Dick Turpin, the notorious Georgian highwayman who robbed stagecoaches in the 18th century. Dick Turpin was buried in the graveyard of the original St George's Church in 1739. Since his death, Turpin has become a romantic figure in English history, but the truth is far from the legend. The legend tells of a man who rode a horse called Black Bess. He would jump out from behind trees in front of stagecoaches shouting, "Stand and deliver, your money or your life." It was at this point you would give him all your money, and everybody would go home happy. In truth, he was believed to be a thief, a poacher, a burglar, and a murderer, not a nice man. And he never had a horse called Black Bess. That was made up about 100 years after his death, in a novel called Rookwood, by the Victorian novelist Harrison Ainsworth. Turpin was actually from Essex, but came to York to avoid capture using the assumed name of John Palmer. He laid low at a place just to the east of York, but one day the landlord's cockerel was keeping him awake, so Turpin shot it dead. It wasn't the cleverest thing to do, as it got him arrested. He was brought to York for trial, where he was found guilty of the more serious crime of being a horse thief. He was taken out to the Tyburn on the Knaves Mire, where he was hanged in 1739. Straight ahead of us is Warmgate Bar, the most complete gateway on a city wall, not only here in York, but also in the United Kingdom. This is because it still retains its Barbican, which is the tunnel-like structure on the outside of the gateway. We will see the Barbican when we turn right. You will not see another original Barbican attached to a city wall unless you go to Krakow in Poland. All the others have now gone. On the side of Warmgate Bar, we can see an Elizabethan gatekeeper's house, which stands on 2 stone pillars, one either side of the central archway. We don't know where the pillars are from, but we do know they are of Roman origin. The gateway would have had only one central arch. The others on the left and right are modern. The gate still has its original 15th century oak doors. As we turn right, look to the right, and you will have a brief view inside the Barbican. Imagine being trapped in there, with the soldiers throwing all kinds of nasty things down from above. In 1828, the city's cattle market was relocated to this area. Cattle and sheep were brought here from all over the country to be traded. The flat grassed areas at the foot of the walls were where livestock were kept in pens awaiting their sale. In 1971, the market was moved again, this time to Merton, a village just outside of York, and was renamed the York Livestock Centre. On our left is the Barbican Leisure Centre, which is named after the Barbican at nearby Warmgate Bar. This is where the UK Snooker Championship has been held many times, and it is also a music and entertainment venue. On our right is Fishergate Bar. This is the smallest of the 5 medieval gateways, first recorded in 1315. The red painted stone above the archway reveals the date of the current bar, which is 1487. 2 years after that date, the gateway was attacked and damaged in the Yorkshire Peasants' Revolt against Henry VII. The rebels burned the gates of the bar after murdering the Earl of Northumberland. The gateway was bricked up soon after and wasn't reopened until 1834 to give better access to the cattle market. Looking ahead, we can see the top of York Minster. It is the tallest structure in York. What we want you to see is the Minster, not a tower block. Ahead, we can see the Travel Lodge, which is a modern building, but you can see how the architect has tried to get the building to fit in with old York. He's put a turret shape on it and covered the walls in magnesium limestone, the same stone the Minster and the city walls are made of. The idea is that eventually it will blend in with its older surroundings. On the left is St George's Field, a piece of land which stands between the two rivers. This used to be the site of the ducking stool, where you could be ducked for such misdemeanours as being a witch, brewing bad beer, or being a nagging wife. We move on to Skeldergate Bridge and cross the River Ouse, York's main river. There's older bridges dating back to Viking times. In 1153, an earlier wooden Ouse bridge collapsed under the weight of a crowd who had come to see the Archbishop William Fitzherbert. William saw what had claimed a miracle. William was made Saint William of York in 1227. Notice the buildings around become much more modern outside the walls, but don't be fooled. There used to be older buildings outside the city walls, but in 1644 York was under siege for 3 months during the Civil War. Around 30,000 parliamentarian troops surrounded the city. However, it is said it was the royalists defending the city who pulled down the buildings outside the walls to get a better view of those attacking them. Bishopthorpe Road has been named in the Times as one of the top 30 of the coolest places to live in the country. In 2014, the Tour de France passed through this area on its way into York. A great street party was held here, and some of the local pubs even changed their names. The Slip Inn became La Slip, and the Swan became La Swan. As we set off through the lights, look left and keep looking left for a brief chance to see the smallest house in York. Watch out for the house at the top of the hill with a large black door with number 76 on it. Just after it, look in the gap and there is a door with the number 76A on it. This claims to be the smallest house in York. We are now in an area of Victorian and Edwardian York. With the arrival of the railways to York in the 1800s, the city grew rapidly. More houses were needed to accommodate the growing population, which had shot up from 17,000 in 1801 to a staggering 77,000 by 1881. These new suburbs were built outside the city walls, with back-to-back terraces to house the people who had come to York to work on the railways and in the chocolate factories. Once the railways had arrived, York became much easier to get to and quickly became quite a tourist destination for the middle classes. No longer did you have to make the long and dangerous journey down south for entertainment by horse-drawn carriage, and so York soon became the leisure and pleasure capital of the north. Chocolate making took off in York mainly with the coming of the railways, although chocolate has been made in York since 1700. The two main chocolate makers in York were Terry's, who started making chocolate in 1767, and later Rowntree's, who had opened a grocer's shop in the centre of York in 1822.